because what I'm going to talk about is wood shop for all, something that's really important to me and for all the shop teachers here. Can you hear me okay?
That's better, thanks.
Okay, so...
We're kind of deaf because of the machine.
What?
We're kind of deaf
I
because
know.
of the machines.
I know. Can't breathe well either. So this is not going to be a talk. I'm talking about wood shop for all. I'm going to specifically talk about middle school, because I'm not going to talk about voc tech schools, because those are critical, those are important. It's a wonderful path for young people to go on. I'm not going to talk about that. In the town that I teach in, the voc tech is the one that kids want to go to. It's a great high school in town, and there's a voc tech in town. So that path is really good. At our high school now, there are no more shops. We're building a new high school, and I've already told, I've got my influence that we are going to have a shop area, but it's going to be for theater arts. Could be for a wood shop. Different story. So voc tech, I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about woodworking programs in high schools like the program here at Brookline, or in Hingham, or in Mansfield, or in Pinkerton. Those are incredible programs. Those are wonderful, mostly elective. Sometimes they're required courses. I'm not going to talk about that. That's wonderful stuff. I don't want to tread on that. I'm not going to talk about private schools, BB&N, Belmont Hill, two of the stellar programs in the country, as far as I can tell, for the work that gets done at both those places. It's just remarkable over the years. It just keep producing, and I'll talk more about why that's important for general education. I'm not going to talk about very young people working with wood. I communicate a lot with a guy named Doug Stowe, who's pretty much like the mentor of hands-on working. Wisdom of the Hands is his website, his blog, just really wonderful, wonderful stuff. And he just came back from doing 2 weeks in Salem, Oregon, where he spent a week in a middle school and a week in an elementary school with young kids building boxes. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to talk about the importance of having a required woodworking class in middle school for 13 and 14-year-old boys and girls. I teach in middle school. I deal with every kid that comes through the doors. I deal with kids who have incredibly good hand skills and can figure things out, like Dylan. I deal with the kids who are going to Cornell and Harvard. I also deal with the life skills kids who have a hard time holding the screwdriver up. I get everybody. It's a public school. I get everybody. So there are 5 reasons. This is my little list. 5 reasons why we need, I'll try to do this in well under 10 minutes. 5 reasons why middle school wood shops should exist. And the first one is teaching safe and accurate tool usage, working with material. With the onslaught of the big box stores and the dropping of wood shops, there's a whole issue about why wood shops disappeared in the last 15 to 25 years. And you can write a thesis on it. Well, I did. So if you want to know why that happened, I did my master's on that 2 years ago, about what happened and what I thought happened, why we don't have so many wood shops. But the big box stores came in, people weren't getting educated, they were buying these tools, they thought they could figure this stuff out. You know, somebody says, you can pop it in, and people were getting hurt tremendously all over the place. Chopping saws are incredibly dangerous. Kickback from table saws. How many people got that? How many people have died from nail guns? Part of it is, I'm not saying it's the whole thing, part of it is that they didn't have shops. Along those lines, Phil, we talked about at Duke and at Davidson College, at the graduate level in the highest schools in the country, you have people who are doing advanced research, and they're doing stuff with optics. They're doing stuff with graduate experiments in physics. And they're doing these experiments, and the professors say, you know what the problem is? They don't know how to use the tools so we can do the experiment. I have to spend my time teaching people how to use a milling machine, how to use a lathe, how to use a bandsaw. And that's the generation that didn't get a shop in middle school. What we're teaching is this understanding of tools. So the first thing is safe and accurate using tools. The second thing is that every student plans, designs, builds a project. And they take home something fabulous. So there's that whole part of the curriculum of planning, of designing, of figuring things out, of building something, and then the incredible joy that you get from building something you take home. When any of us who do this for a living, tell people what we do, you always, like 1 out of 3 times somebody says, I made this thing in junior high school that my mother has, or my granddaughter has a stool that she steps on that I made 45 years ago. You should be getting goosebumps, because that's what we teach. We teach that thing that is a token of what's going on in your life. This is a moment in our lives here that people take with them. People take this with them. The project that they make in middle school follows them. So building these projects, the planning, the designing, so when knocking off the check marks that we're trying to do for the larger view of standards for engineering, but in reality, we're doing something that's hitting to the core of someone. And probably number 3, the biggest thing that we teach is we teach failure. You're gonna screw up. You come in the door to my shop, you're gonna fail. You're gonna screw up, you're gonna break it, you're gonna put the screwdriver in, and you go, oh, I didn't have the setting right. Right, didn't have the setting right. It went right through the piece of wood. Or the piece breaks, and you look at me and you go, how come the piece broke? What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes stuff breaks. What a valuable lesson. It's life. Sometimes stuff breaks. Sometimes it doesn't work right. Sometimes you'll measure it twice, and then when you cut it, it's off by 1/8 of an inch. Oh, and the legs are wobbling. Oh, man. So there's failure, there's part of it. Then I keep saying, isn't that great? You just failed. Now you got that lesson. So it's one of those things. I always thought that I would put a sign up over my shop that would say, wood shop, the place where you learn by making mistakes, but nobody gets hurt ever, please. But I haven't put that sign up yet. So learn by failure. There's another part, and this is one that you gave me the idea on, about collaborative work. Kids working collaboratively in wood shops. They do. We explain something, we do a lesson, and then one kid says to the other, so how do you do this? And what you wind up getting is not just a collaboration, but you get the kid who's in that really hip clique, and you get the geeky kid at the same bench working together. They would never work together in anything. Maybe in art if they were forced to do it. But here it's like, oh yeah, this is the way you do it. And you just watch this relationship, and they may never be friends and may never intersect again in their lives. But what a critical moment for diversity in our classroom. This is where kids really interact with each other. It's a place where we work together and we can get things, people see each other as people being helpful. And the 5th note is problem solving. I've had the good fortune of going to national conferences, national union conferences, and there's always the talk about, well, what are we trying to do? The bigger picture of education, what do we want? Well, we want people to be problem solvers. We want them to be able to think. Well, when you're making anything that any of you have made, any of you have entered this, there's some point in there where you're going, oh, how do I do this? When you're starting to put those tables together and you're trying to figure out how those joints are going to fit in, or, oh, I cut that too big. How do I get that small? How's that going to work? There's all this problem solving, there's all this thinking. And it doesn't stop there. So, if we take a look at just those 5 points for middle school, if we take a look at the larger view of education, what we're trying to accomplish is we want people to be problem solvers, we want people to work collaboratively, we want all our students to learn from failure, we want to be able to plan and design and follow all the way through to completion. Let me say that again, to completion. How many projects in schools don't get to completion? Not only get to completion, you take it home and you're just incredibly proud of it. I have the coffee table I made before I graduated from Fitchburg State in 1975. It's the nicest piece of work I've ever done. 1975, and there are thousands of these projects all over the country, hundreds of thousands, where people think that's the nicest thing I ever did in my life. So we have that going for us. I have to go over my 5 points. So why is it important to do this? I don't want to talk, we're not in competition with tech ed. We're not in competition with the makers. We're not in competition with building any kind of other shops. This in itself is important. This is a place where kids wind up using rulers. And if you screw this up, it's not like you get 2 points off, but the table's gonna wobble. You get an eighth of an inch off, it's really gonna be different. So the importance for this is kids need it. So my whole point is wood shop for all. We're using it as a tagline that we'll be tweeting by the end of the summer. We're gonna have a website that hopefully that all the New England teachers will just start throwing in our projects there and just tweeting it to them and to you. So that you can see how important this stuff is. Schools keep getting built and the wood shops from the old schools are getting closed and shuttered. It's cheaper to run a wood shop than it is to get new computers every 5 years and the software to support it. You put a wood shop in there, it's gonna be there for 40 or 50 years with just buying the woodwork and sharpening the tools up. So what I'd like you to do is just to think about how we can get this going. And if you have any influence in the schools, probably the greatest influence we have are parents telling the school committees that we want to have wood shops. So is there a better way I can end that? Wood shop for all, that's it. Is that okay? I need to work on the ending, right? Okay.
Yeah.